I would say networking
Yeah.
is the key to the world, key to life, relationships. That's how you make it in, I think, pretty much almost any industry, right?
I
It's
agree.
who you know and what you know, right? Because I know a lot of people say it's who you know, not what you know, but you can't be ignorant to things, right? You have to learn.
Welcome to Vegas Circle Podcast with your hosts, Paki and Chris. We are people who are passionate about business, success, and culture, and this is our platform to showcase the people in our city who make it happen. On today's podcast, we're going to be discussing entertainment distribution through network TV and digital channels with boxer and promoter who is the CEO and co-founder of Entrobox. We got Mr. Ronald Johnson. So welcome to the circle, brother.
Thank you for having me.
So we finally got a chance to get you down, man. We got a chance to see what you've been doing with Entrobox. You just did a multi-year deal with Bally Sports. We want to kind of get into that. But first off, we want to kind of start off with a little bit of your boxing career. First started boxing at 7 years old.
7 years old.
Turned professional at 19, but you actually brought out to Vegas from, is it Laila Ali?
Laila Ali, yes, Muhammad Ali's daughter. Yeah, she brought me here. Man. So yeah, in 2003.
Wow. Okay. Yes. So how did you guys actually connect?
So it's crazy. My dad, we owned a restaurant in Cleveland.
Okay.
It's called CJ's Famous Angus. So it was like a food trailer, like a food truck. And so a guy that used to come there all the time, he was from Atlanta, and he grew up with Laila Ali's husband at the time, Yahya McClain, who's actually the trainer in the movie Creed for the guy that fought against Michael B. Jordan.
That's what's
the
up.
Trainer and
I just watched Creed 3 yesterday.
Yeah, he's the trainer of that guy, and then he's also he's been in BMF the last couple episodes of that one. So so he was married to Laila Ali at that time.
That's what's
and
up.
So that guy that came to the restaurant, he was like, man, I see you've been winning a lot of boxing tournaments and stuff. I want to hook you up with my guy Yahya. That's what we call him, Johnny McClain. And so put me on the phone with him, and he was like, yo, my boy told me you're really good. Want to invite you down. It's February 14th. It was Valentine's Day, 2003. They invited me to Louisville, Kentucky to come watch Laila fight. She was headlining on ESPN.
Wow.
And so I went there, and 2 weeks later, I was living here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. How important do you think it is? I know we're a business, but from that part of it, how important do you think it is to be in Vegas, to be a professional boxer? It seems like we're like one of the biggest hubs in the country.
This was the
boxing.
fight capital for many, many years. It kind of slowed down a little bit, but it still holds a very big hold on the industry. But at that time, this was the place to be. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really know it was the place to be at that time. I was so young.
19 years old.
Right, at that time, I was 17.
Oh, smack. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't turn pro. I was 16 or 17. I had just graduated high school. Because I graduated at 16, and I left that March I was out. So I was here, and that's when I started realizing, I started meeting all the Mayweathers and everyone. And then I came in with like a big chip on my shoulder because I'm here with Laila Ali.
That must have been exciting.
Oh yeah, every boxer want to box me, right? They want to try to prove their point against me. Like, you just brought him up here from Cleveland, so it was pretty crazy. Definitely had a chip on my shoulder. It was crazy.
That's a stamp.
That's a good way to see that.
That's a target on my back, man. It was crazy. So I was in wars all the time, man. It was crazy.
It made you better though.
Oh yeah, and then I used to spar with Laila thousands of rounds. Like
you kidding?
Yeah.
Okay.
See,
I need to see the footage of that.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. I haven't watched it in a long time, but she was definitely like the truth for sure.
I bet.
Yeah,
she was special.
A couple times I thought I was gonna play with her. I had my hands down, and she hit me with a right hand. I had my mouth open. Man, I couldn't eat for like a week, bro. I was like, crazy. She fought super middleweight, so she's not no little girl. She fought 168 pounds.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
boxing is not for sissies, man.
No.
Beat up for a living. That's tough. That's tough.
I'll sidetrack just for 1 second. We were talking with my kids because we were watching Creed, and I was trying to explain to them. I'm like, it is not a game. The oxygen that you have to be able to do and be able to hold it, like doing it at a professional level that you've been able to do, is not. It is serious.
No, I tell people all the time, you can work out in any different other sports and other things. You can feel like you in the best shape of your life.
Nah.
There's no shape like boxing shape, though.
I believe it.
And because you could train for 6 months, run as many miles as you want, but then you get in the ring and can't do more than 45 seconds. Mm-hmm. That 3 minutes is actually longer than you think it is when you're in the middle of a round.
Yeah.
And it definitely makes a coward out of anybody quick.
I bet. Yeah, I'd have been in plenty of times. It's not a game.
I think Mike Tyson was like the perfect example. Super in shape, ripped, and for fourth round,
done. Exactly. If he don't get you in those first 3 rounds, you in trouble. The first 3 rounds you're gonna be in trouble, but after that, you may have a chance if you can make it past that.
And he's not in super shape too. Like anybody else will be able to compare to that.
Holding the oxygen and the whole nine, keeping your control down, the heart rate, everything.
You have to, just from that aspect, you got some fighters where you can't even do that against, right? Because you may be in a war. Where you trade in punches, so at that time it goes into even deeper. You're not a grit, and so who got the kahunas? Who gonna sit here and fight? Because it's the guy not letting up, right? So you got guys. I've seen a couple fights where guys throwing 200 punches around with each other, and they going back and forth, landing on each other, like for 12 whole rounds of that. You know, so that's like crazy to have to endure one of those. I try my best to stay away from them kind of fights.
Now we're talking about that. We're not gonna get into the business yet. We'll stay on boxing for a second. We got some big fights coming up, right?
Yep.
So we'll sidetrack for a little bit, but Gervonta Davis fight coming up.
Right.
Who do you like in that match?
It's a big fight. I honestly think Tank's gonna beat him.
Okay.
I think it's gonna go down the stretch. Maybe I don't think it's gonna be as easy for him because Ryan is a good fighter. He's fast. He's a lot taller than Tank, and he has experience, right? So he's had a impeccable amateur career. He had like 300 plus amateur fights.
He's fought that much?
Oh yeah, he's been fighting since he was a kid. So he's won multiple national championships. Wow. So he comes with a big boxing pedigree. So he, I just think a lot of people don't give him the proper due because he's marketed himself more in the social media stuff. But he's a traditional real boxer. He's not like the other influencers who wanted to start boxing. It may look like that because of how he marketed himself, but he's a traditional fighter who actually went through the ranks, trained hard, fought multiple national champions, and been on the scene since he was a kid. So he's a real legit boxer, but just come with a big fan base, which is good because this fight makes it that much bigger, So it's the biggest fight in that division right now.
Yeah, that's a beast mode. We're going to come back to that too, just to pick your brains on a couple of different things. But with Entrobox, man, you guys call yourself the next chapter of entertainment in boxing.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, how you came up with this idea and what you guys made able to do.
In 2009, when I actually promoted the fight with Zab Judah at the Palms,
I
always thought about it like, what do people get excited about in other sporting things? So Entrobox, the name comes from the ENT is the entertainment. Then ENTRO is the introduction, like intro between entertainment and boxing. So it was the name combined. So when I did it was like, when you're watching the Super Bowl, people get you excited about the football game, but then you also just excited about who performing at halftime.
Very much so.
So we wanted to incorporate like the whole entertainment aspect, not so much having to be during the fights, but just entertainment and boxing just combined, whether it's a big weekend that's entertainment driven. It could be a very famous person that's singing the national anthems, have a couple performances instead of that downtime when you're waiting for the next opponents, the fighters to come back out to the ring. That downtime could be utilized in major ways with entertainment.
Keeping the energy up.
Keep the energy up so people antsy and it's just downtime. So just give people an extra bang for their buck.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, because you see that definitely in every other sport, even in fake sports like the WWE entertainment. It's
exactly.
Like they're not. That's really what it's all the hype about, and they really do need to bridge that gap because you do see it a little bit with like boxing is really up when there's somebody big fighting, like your Mike Tyson's, your Floyd's, and everybody's pumped, and it's a whole spectacle.
Yeah, exactly.
But then once the most of the time, it's not that. Like you say, there's thousands of boxing events that happen throughout the year, but really, there's nobody.
There's some great fights, and there's some great fights, but it doesn't get the attention in the media, people behind it as much as it needs to, and so the fanfare. So, like I've watched in the last couple of weeks some really big fights, some really good fights. Actually, I'm talking about if you was a casual boxing fan or just looking to like boxing, these are fights that would have made you be a fan, huge fan again, right? And I was feeling like it sucks that a lot of people might not have been tuning in to those. And now everybody focus on the big fight this weekend. Now, what if that's a slow what if these guys don't hardly go out and get the action that everybody been waiting to see?
For sure.
That puts a black eye on boxing, but that ain't the only fight that's happening. You know, there's millions of fights that's always happening. So just need to be able to put more attention on those other fights that's coming. So that was another angle to be able to lure people in to want to check these things out.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Great, hell of an idea to be able to come into business, man, especially because you've been a professional fighter for so long. You understand the ins and outs. You're not just teaching a philosophy, you actually know, because you signed the deals and the contracts and stuff. Talk a little bit about this multi-event deal that you did with Bally Sports. That just happened in 2022?
End of 21, 22. It was a transition because basically Disney had to sell all the Fox Sports regionals. They had a monopoly on the industry. So the group that I ended up meeting, which I already had a previous relationship with them, they used to run the USA Today sports division. So I used to do all the boxing content for USA Today. So when they called me and said, "Hey Ron, we got an opportunity, keep it under your hat," but our company Diamond Sports, which is owned by my guy Byron Allen.
Oh yeah,
so Byron Allen,
Weather Channel and everything.
The Weather Channel, so
sure.
Byron Allen, along with Sinclair, he owns Diamond Sport. He owned Bally's.
Wow.
So he went and bid it and won the bid. It was up against Ice Cube and Magic Johnson. That group, they all were trying to go in, but he ended up getting it in there. Bally's Corporation paid, I think, upward of $100 million for the naming rights for 10 years. So.
Shout out to him. Remember Angelo Diaz making fun of me saying I look like Byron Allen. So I'm gonna take credit to that, man, real quick.
Nice,
But that's hilarious, man. So talk a little bit about athletes, man. They have such a challenge with financial literacy.
Right.
Do you get involved in that at all? Because I've been reading 78% of athletes lose it within 3 years.
One of my major partners is a girl named Angel Rich.
Okay.
She's really big in the financial literacy area. Okay. Her company's right now is valuated at $1.4 billion.
Oh, wow.
She created like all these financial literacy apps, Credit Rich. Her partner is Notori from Power, like Ghost's wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's involved in that company as well. She just cut a big deal with Visa. They got all these financial literacy programs. So we incorporating that along with our boxing and things like that. So the athletes that we represent, they can have the opportunity to be able to learn from her. She's big from the Wall Streets on. She's built a lot of big companies. Yeah. So she's a young girl. She's doing really big things.
Are they willing to listen? The students being a student, being a boxer?
It's I feel like if somebody just coming to talk to you about financial literacy is one thing, right? But when I tell you that her company's worth $1.5 billion,
that's the statement.
So it's the statement, right? It's it's like, okay, seeing is believing, right? So it's a different kind of mindset walking into the room when you know somebody have those type of credentials.
Yeah.
So
and you've broken a lot of deals, right?
I've always have, and I've always been that person in the industry where something need to get done, people make a call. And I've always been that person to kind of line up things. Yes.
Did you broker the deal with the Pauls, both of the Jake Paul?
So So Logan, basically, their businesses is separate. So
both of the brothers are separate.
Both of theirs separate. Okay. So Jake, he has his own business. I actually went and trained with them back in 2019 is when I kind of first met them. One of my good friends, Milton LaCroix, who was training Logan Paul at the time. So when I got in there, though, it wasn't about me doing anything for Logan at first. It was just more so building a relationship with Milton, because he's a good friend, and he had other fighters that he needed moved. So like I always try to tell a lot of my friends, sometimes you could see the big carrot over there. Of course, I want to walk through the door. I want to go do business right with Logan.
He's driving a lot of traffic.
Yeah, he drives a lot of traffic, but it's like there's a million people that's around him that wants to do a lot of business with him. And when you got a big mega star like that, what's separating you from everyone else? And some people that was coming to him with higher credentials, more money, everything else. So I just kind of just fell in my own lane and said, let me take care of a person that's dear to him, which is Milt LaCroix. And he looks at him, he did a big story about how he looks at him as his grandfather, all these different things, right? So he had all these fighters Milton had these fighters that he need moved. So I started getting his fighters wins. And he would take me, Logan, you see what Ron did for my guys over here? You see what Ron did for my guys over here? Then Milton actually brought up the conversation and said, Ryan, why don't you try to do something for Logan? Logan might want to fight, may want to do this. I said, well, it just really depends on the number. And so I went, we had a few conversations, and then my partner, Jim Weiland from New York, who's the other half of Entrobox.
Oh, okay.
He actually came in and we put the money together to do a deal with Logan.
That's what's up. When you say fighters moved, what does that mean? Like get them lined up for like another fight, or kind of like,
because these guys that he were training, these guys, they hadn't turned pro yet. They didn't have
kind of moving them through the ranks.
Yeah, they didn't have the big amateur careers and stuff, so they didn't have all the bigger guys coming to knock on their door to make it easy. Yeah. So I would work my hand. I had guys fighting in Orlando. I had them taking some of them fighting in New York. I had them fighting all over the country using the contacts I have. And sometimes I was even paying for the fights to even happen for them. So it wouldn't be no profit for it. I just make sure they stay busy and get 1-0, 2-0, get their career off. Now, one guy ended up signing with this guy. So, so I just did it for that. I didn't really lock them into no personal contracts because I wasn't doing it for that. So
it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's a whole different, I think, process that I'm not familiar with, or candidly. So just from the perspective of the business side of it. So essentially you have people that come in, maybe then you're trying to drive them through the ranks, you're promoting them, getting them lined up on fights, then moving them to like a distribution live event deal through the Entrobox. Is that kind of like the workflow process?
So more so like through the Entrobox aspect, we more so focus on the programming aspect of just producing the fights. Now my other company, American Dream Presents, is whereas I sign the fighters and I personally am the promoter for that.
God, okay.
Entrobox is actually the thing that we did that contract with Bally's, and that's the event series, Entrobox Championship Boxing. Presented by American Dream Presents.
Got it.
And I work with other promoters and different things of that nature. So it's kind of like being a co-founder of Entrobox, but then also my promotion company handles all the promotions.
That's pretty cool.
Fighters and stuff.
Yeah,
that's excellent, man. That's a good piece to be involved in, man. Because the ROI and everything.
Try to keep everything as much in-house, so try to keep much control as possible
as we can.
So that way you can make sure the vision stay clear.
Is there like a big competition in that space? Like, is it something that you're totally outside the box, or is it like, pretty competitive to try to get and handle on these, fighters kind of through the process and assisting them?
It's like you have a lot of fighters that in and out of contracts. You have to be a little careful because some of them have contractual disputes. Boxing is so political.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
I was going to ask you about that.
Like, it's a world of its own, right? I tell people it's the only place that you could be doing deal with a guy from Harvard with a felon that's been in prison for 40 years, right? And they got to do business like they got to talk the same language, right? It's the whole slew of everything else in between, right? So it's crazy, right? It's one of a kind, but I love it. I love it though because it's one of those industries too that you always have a chance and an opportunity.
Yeah, that's very true.
You didn't have to go to school. You don't have to have a degree for certain things, so you can always figure out how to make your way. You could, like I said, I've seen guys walk in right off the street, right in the Floyd's gym with a towel, and they should know he's working for the money team. He's traveling all around the world, like, you know what I mean? It's like out of nowhere, right? So you can't just do that and walk on an NBA court and start thinking you're going to be a part of any other industry like that.
That is very true.
I never looked at it that way. That's a very good point. Yeah,
you got a guy that might have spent 20 years in prison, get out at 30 years old and want to box, run his record up to 15-0. Now he's fighting for $1 million. I mean, there's no restrictions of him not being able to do that.
Yeah.
So there's always a way.
The Vegas Circle podcast is brought to you by RAC Financial. They help new and established businesses with simple, secure, and reliable payment processing. RAC's credit card merchant processing services are unmatched. Visit racfinancial.com today and mention Vegas Circle podcast.
So that's what I love about it.
Very good point. That's a guy. I love boxing bell on that side of it. I ain't doing it with my head knocked off. But that's a straight up truth.
But then it's a flip side of it. That's the beauty of it part right there. But then you could be a guy come in and you get around the wrong people in the industry. Next you know, somebody might have gave him a phone call. Hey, bring me your guy over here. I'm gonna pay you $5,000 at the table. He's in a fight that he don't know who he's fighting. Now you just got knocked out in the first round. Next, you know, you fighting again next month, get knocked out again. Your career is pretty much done.
I was gonna ask, like, there's no reset, right? Like, if you go 0-5, you're pretty much never.
I mean, I've seen a guy come back from that, but 99.9% of the time you're done.
Oh, dang, that's pretty crazy.
Because now you're just an opponent, and people are gonna just be calling you for those type of fights.
So really, it's important to line yourself up with somebody who's gonna like really not necessarily put you in a position where you're always gonna just dominate, but a pretty competitive space where you have a chance to kind of show yourself and grow.
Really, just depends on your amateur pedigree, right? You come with experience. So if I know a guy come to me, he tell me, Ron, I only have 5 amateur fights. Okay, and I'm so okay. Let me go look at him and sparring. I can kind of the eye test. I can kind of see where he is. I know I got to be careful with the matchmaking aspect, right? So I may take him to a weaker part of the country to get a fight. Like certain commissions is weaker than others. Like trying to fight in Nevada, trying to fight in New York and Jersey, things like that. I wouldn't probably have him do that right off the bat because the commissions here, they try to match fights very closely. But if I take them to Mississippi, Alabama, or even Tijuana, I can kind of hand pick what I want. And it's not a fixed fight, but I just know how to
align it the
right way so he's not over his head, but give him the 80-20 percentage, 80% chance he can pull it off.
Because the way that it's not fixed, they're all just competing at the same level.
Yeah, we all compete, but it's I know what this person can bring to the table. I know what my guy got. My guy better have more than him. So
it makes sense, man. It's real strategic.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
real strategic.
That's why the top ranked matchmaker, I say he's one of the biggest people in boxing because he's made so many careers from Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, all these big name guys. And it's not so much of the promoter. The promoter promote the events, but that your matchmaker is the key person when you build in a boxing company because he controls who he's fighting. He make one wrong move and put the wrong guy in at the wrong time with this guy.
Some of those something every time.
Some of those names, some of those names don't be who they are.
That's crazy.
So, that's interesting, man. You've had kind of a lot of mentors, right? Over this period. I saw you hung out a lot with Don King, man.
Oh yeah, that's my guy. Hey, we from Cleveland. Yeah. So I've known him for a very long time. We've done a lot of big events.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of things people say about him, good, bad, ugly, but he's the biggest in the game to ever do it. So
what's the biggest thing you learned from him? One nugget from him.
He just tough skin. You always tell me like, not everything you're gonna do is gonna be completed, but just don't go into a corner and give up and ever, just keep fighting. You just gotta fight. He's like, and he always use history and different things to try to help motivate you all the time. Just like, we had to fight all our lives, man. Just keep fighting. And
that's what's up.
I had got into a dispute with one fighter years ago. And I was like, man, Don, man, I can't believe this dude said that about me. He said, you mad about that? You see what they said about me?
That'll put you,
So I was like, oh, man. I said, okay, all right, you're right.
Everybody always got a bigger problem, man. A bigger monster they're dealing with.
He said, that's all? Okay, oh, man. It's like, look at what they said about me and then tell me how would you feel about that.
That's a good statement. That's a very good statement. I love his perspective. Talk a little bit about this MMA boxing matches that are happening, man. Do you like this with, like, say, for example, Jake Paul and Nate Diaz, or not Nate Diaz, it's Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz, I'm sorry, his brother.
It's Nate. It's Nate.
Is it Nate?
It's Nate.
I thought it was Nick, his brother.
No, Nick. No. I had one of my friends represent Nick. He wanted to try to get Jake, but it's actually
it is going to be Nate. I'm sorry. I read that wrong.
I think he's the bigger out of the two brothers.
100%. Nate is a beast. I think he fought Mark McGregor a couple of times.
Yep. But I think he was the first one to beat him, actually, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. 100%. Yeah. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's a good look for the industry, or do you think it's all eyes? It's just driving traffic?
It's like, it's one of those things where it's entertainment. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And as a fan of boxing, I'm 50-50. Okay. But for the business of boxing, I love it because it brings more eyeballs. It brings more corporate sponsors that want to be involved with the sport. So. Because now they see we got people with more eyeballs that's coming into the industry. Then also the biggest thing is it helps keep boxing going, right? And the only reason why, and when I mean by keeping boxing going, the only way you're gonna be able to keep boxing going is the youth. Mm-hmm. Who's these guys? Jake and Logan's. Who their biggest fan base? The youth.
I think it's huge for
kids. Exactly.
Look at all
when these YouTubers are doing what they're doing, is making more younger kids want to get into the sport.
I think they're huge for boxing, candidly. Like, I feel like they're going to single-handedly kind of put it, not, I said back on the map, but put it in front of more eyeballs, people that wouldn't necessarily have watched before.
And the good thing about it is, why is it that they choosing to do this and not this, that, or this?
Yeah,
or
they didn't go to UFC.
They didn't go to UFC. They didn't go MMA. They didn't go do this. They didn't celebrity basketball games. They didn't do, they came to this sport, which is beautiful because, like I said, like throughout the years, our amateur programs and gyms and throughout the cities been shutting down. There's least amount of fighters, and we don't get those Sugar Ray Leonards and the Floyd Mayweathers coming out these cities as often as you would want. But that's because the gyms is not full from 8, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds picking up boxing. So by them coming to do that, that makes kids want to go learn the sport.
I like your perspective. I didn't look at it that way. Everybody wants to be video games and be influencers.
Exactly.
Is what the kids
so
want to do now.
They
versus
influence them to go want to start training in boxing. Make sure these kids really like it. Teach them health, discipline. You start traveling, seeing the world, because boxing saved my life, saved millions of other people's lives. I know my friends, we
100%.
traveled the world. I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't boxing,
That's a real statement.
I've
never looked at that. That's why I wanted to ask you.
So I love it for that. How do you feel about,
like, just from a technical perspective, right? And this is a personal question for me. Floyd Mayweather and McGregor's fight, do you feel like Floyd carried him that whole fight?
I do. I definitely do. I definitely think he carried him. And that's so funny because I fought in Vegas maybe a month prior to that fight happening. It was in July. I fought that year. I think it was 2017. I fought at the Westgate. And I promoted the fight, but I was having a hard time with the athletic commission because 2 of the fighters that was on my undercard, they wouldn't let this guy fight that guy. So I had a guy that was 21-7 about to fight a guy that was 12-6 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
But the guy was like, no, I don't like that matchup. And I'm like, man, but you approved 50-0 versus 0-0, bro. Like, what's going on? Yeah, come on. Like, right? But it's like I couldn't go at him but so hard because it's like, y'all know the money trumps it all. You can't even try to get into that, right? But I was just like, man, what are we doing here? So it was just like that whole aspect. But I was like, just leave it alone. All my other people like, no, we need to go put a lawsuit. Hey, this is wrong because they almost messed our show up because if you don't have a certain amount of fights on the card, they can legally cancel it.
It's done, yeah.
And we was down to 3 fights.
Oh, yeah.
And in the 24th hour, you cancel these 2 bouts. And I'm like, why you cancel these? It's not like a mismatch, It's like, so it was bad, but we ended up pulling the show off and things of that nature. So just like, wow, but
that's scary, man.
Let
Especially
you know,
when you got a lot of capital out there.
Exactly. And it was like, I get it. That fight was bringing in $500 million. We paying $100,000+. I know the numbers didn't add up the same, so but I just like but I didn't want to fight that war. You can't win that one with them. So
it's too much money. It's too much. The green is too much, man.
But how important do you think it is? You see, like UFC. I think what really put them on the map is doing the reality shows, doing the things like that, really understanding who these fighters are and having the personalities. And I think boxing kind of moved away from that a little bit.
And that's why I love about the deal I have because it's free TV. Right, so Bally's is free. It's mostly on a lot of cable packages, but then they giving me the freedom to create outside other programming so I can do those type of things. So like the 4 fights I did last year, out of at least 8 or 9 of those guys are either fought for a world title since. One of them, Falcoa, he's the co-main event on Tank and Ryan's card. He won his title on Entrobox on Bally's.
That's pretty awesome.
Oh, he's nice too.
Yeah,
right?
So Falcoa, but he's fighting David Morrell, who's a beast. So I'm like, but it just shows the opportunities that I was able to create for someone and that person had him on that card, and Golden Boy had dropped him and we put him on our show and highlighted him. He won his title. Now he's in co-main event with Tank and Ryan, with the biggest fight card of the year.
Period.
I think what you're doing is really important. I think.
So I don't think Falco is going to win, but the opportunity is there for him. If he wins, he's the biggest thing in the business at that point. So
that's exciting, man.
Yeah,
when you've been able to do that, and I mean, just for our listeners, man. Your company's done well over $100 million in its inception. So this guy knows exactly what he's talking about.
And that was a year and a half ago.
So it's way over that now.
Like I've signed Logan Paul since then. We've done multiple things. So we've the Bally's deal, like all that stuff was prior to that. So we've been just constantly doing more and more things.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's excellent.
I think it's exactly what it needs the right time too.
Yeah, it's great, man, what you've been able to do. Talk a little bit about this 60-minute special you coming together with Hector Camacho Jr. His son is actually putting it with you, right?
Yes, he's an executive producer with me as well. So I was in Colombia like in February, and I saw him. Camacho was writing on LinkedIn. He was saying my dad's street name and things May 20th. So I called him just to see if it was going to be like media access, because I promoted like 8 of Camacho's fights, his fights when he was fighting. Okay. So we always had a great brotherly relationship. So I reached out to him. I was like, hey, is it you guys going to have media there at the street renaming? He was like, yeah, Telemundo, these people. And at first I was like, I just want to get access. But then I thought about it. It's like, no, let's turn it into a special. I said, I think you need, like, this is big. And
really give him his flowers the
right way. They've made certain documentaries on it, but I want to do it in a different way. So he's like, what you thinking? And I gave him my game plan and stuff, and we started shooting last month in March. So we're going to continue on, and we turned that into a big weekend now in New York next month. Whereas that Thursday, we're going to do the first ever Macho Cup.
In Harlem?
In Harlem, in the projects where he was born and raised.
Okay.
The James Weldon Johnson projects there in Spanish Harlem, right where he was born and raised. And it's a free event for the community. So that's going to kick off the weekend on that Thursday. And we're going to have the youth fighting, and we're going to give them all macho chains.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be
I'm looking forward to seeing that documentary. Seriously, because he's a legend, man.
No, he's a legend, and, he's big. He's honestly a pioneer with all these guys with the jewelry and from a boxer aspect and the flashiness. He's the pioneer of that.
Yeah. I think Floyd was talking about that back in the day too, right?
Yeah,
he learned
he was fly, man. Like, so it was big not only just for boxing, but then the whole Spanish, Latino, Puerto Rican community. So he did a lot. So we've been reaching out. We got Fat Joe, all these different people that wants to be involved with it, because this is big.
I paid attention because I lived in Boston for a long time, so I got a lot of Spanish homies.
Oh, Puerto
Rican, Dominican cats, so I know the whole
be around them so much. People think I'm Puerto Rican all the time.
Same as me. Same as me. I do got to ask you, who is your GOAT for boxing?
My favorite fighter of all time, Roy Jones Jr.
Okay.
Prime Roy Jones Jr. to me was phenomenal. I had so many great fighters, but he was just like that personal one. That was when my first amateur fight was November 18th, 1994. That's the same night he fought James Toney. I was 9 years old. I remember running home and can't wait to watch him on HBO. Yeah. And this guy was just so unbelievable, like fast hands, hit you with 20 punches with the same hand, right?
And talk to you about it.
And then this one was the craziest. He was in like the NBA D League or G League at the time, back there in the day.
He was hooping.
He was hooping
about that.
So his team made it to a championship game. The championship game ended up falling on the day he had to fight on HBO. So they moved the time down so he can play in the game. He scored like 30-something points. Got on a private jet. Went to go fight on HBO later that night after playing a full-on basketball game, dropping dimes.
That's different.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
I was like, wow, bro. I was like, yo, this dude is amazing, bro.
That's why Jordan wanted to sponsor him and do the whole nine.
So that's what I'm saying. He's one of the biggest fight. Like, so a lot of the stuff I'm doing is because of Roy, right? I watched him, like, when I was young, I studied everything that he did. Like, he was always his own promoter. Yeah. He had Square Ring Entertainment when he came out. So a lot of people don't know he put Sugar Shane Mosley on, Winky, right? All of them come from him.
That's pretty. And Winky's your people's, right?
Yeah, Winky, that's my guy. Like so, and all these guys come from him. They always from Florida guys, and like they all like so. Sugar, you wouldn't know a lot of these people if it wasn't for Roy Jones.
I'm glad you said that, man. Yeah, he did definitely. That's true. Like, I didn't think about it like that.
That 10-year run that he, like, from like 90 like 92, 93 to like 2004 until that
special.
broke my heart that night at Mandalay Bay. I was there when Tarver knocked him out. And me and Tarver were great friends too. But Tarver, when you watch this, man, I'll never forget you for that.
I'm going to talk to you after the line. I'm sorry, but I heard that story with Fat Joe was talking about. That is the funniest. I'm talking about it online.
Yeah, that was funny, bro.
I met Fat Joe before. Fat Joe cool as hell. But the story he said about Roy Jones.
To lean back.
Did you hear about that? Just real quick. Fat Joe said Roy stepped to him when he was making a song about lean back. And it was about to be problems. Because
they was friends.
Yeah.
And he said, man, I thought we was friends. And Roy pulled up all of them at the nightclub, man. And said,
he backed off.
Oh,
No, he said,
I saw that look in his eyes, man. He said, I know I got people with me that can handle and make sure this is cool, but they ain't gonna help me right now. He got me right now. He want to get me. He got me right now.
It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Just share just a little bit about business advice. What would you leave our listeners with? Just a nugget of business advice. Maybe somebody wants to become a small business like yourself or get in a corporation set up, whatever it is. What would you leave them with or a nugget or gem? I
would say networking is the key to the world, key to life, relationships. It's all about, that's how you make it in, I think, pretty much almost any industry, right?
I agree.
Who you know and what you know, right? And it's because I know a lot of people say it's who you know, not what you know, but you can't be ignorant to things, right? You have to learn, but the way you're gonna learn a lot of times is from meeting others and learning from them
100%.
And be receptacle. So that's the key. That's always been like my number one thing: networking and keeping relationships as tight as you can, and solid, and so that way you can always lean on people and be able to, they don't mind opening up their Rolodex because we all networks ourselves, right? You a network, your network, I'm a network. So we all have our own tunnel of people, and it's all it takes is I'm one phone call away from every big person in the world, right? And I got others that's connected to people in that way. So that's always been the key, and just, never give up and, stay down. It don't, sometimes some things don't happen overnight. Just whatever fuel you and give you that power to want to keep going, just do it. Just keep going.
I'm glad you said it about network. I mean, that's why Chris and I, we started this podcast almost 5 years now for us. And the network has happened after podcasts of just interviewing so many business owners. It's just awesome, man. But it's like people read off your energy too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Energy is infectious. And so I feel like that's always been one of my strong suits. And
100%.
I've always, been able to leave my mark in any room I walk in. No matter what walk of life it is, so it's everywhere, so from the board.
I remember, like I told you, I remember you from like 10, 12 years ago.
It's all
like that. You left your mark
in.
I remember that. That's a strong statement. We always ask everybody about restaurants in Vegas. Give us one gem, man. What's your favorite restaurant in Vegas?
Man, that's a tough one. I probably would say probably Archie's.
Archie's, man, Archie's
Thai
good.
restaurant. That's a 3 time a week thing.
I ain't even gonna lie, Archie's is good.
I do love some Archie's.
I get some tom yum soup, some tom kai, I always. So that's probably like my favorite.
We didn't have nobody say Archie's. That is a gym, and that's good food.
Love Archie's. But I love a lot of exotic foods like Thai food, like Middle Eastern food. I love different things. So,
what's Middle Eastern food you like over here?
I go to the what is it? Kebab House.
Kebab House.
I've seen that's one on Flamingo and Rainbow.
Oh, yep.
Right there.
I know exactly.
Giving us some gems, man. Ain't nobody said nothing about Kebab House or Archie's. So I'm glad you brought something new for us.
That's a really good one. Yeah, it was really good too.
That's what's up, man. Good stuff, man.
And Azusa, they got the best lamb chops.
Azusa, what is it?
Is that the one you were talking about? That's the one you said. It's on Harmon and Paradise. They got my favorite lamb chops, though.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Best lamb chops ever.
Check that out.
That's where that CVS, right across from the Hard Rock, where the Hard Rock, the Virgin Hotel, and that plaza right there. It's a hookah lounge right there. Yep.
Okay. You gave us 3
really
gems.
Good food.
Okay. We'll check all 3 of those out, man. Really. Shout out to all 3 of those. What else are you concentrating on for 2023?
We're gonna be. Our series will be back up and going here in the next probably June. So I'm looking to do about 4 fights here in Las Vegas this year, and that and this actually doing this documentary on Camacho has actually opened up more doors, and I want to create more series on a lot of well-known, the guys behind the scenes, a lot of different things, because I feel like there's a lot of big people in the industry that don't get their just due.
I love what you're saying.
And I feel like, you know, I want Entrobox to be like the Netflix for boxing, right? So you're getting all these series on all these different characters. Boxing had characters, like, you know, from hype men to cut men to assistant trainers, all sorts of people that make a lot of things move. And you know, you don't hear about them.
No, and I feel like the average people don't get no exposure to that because candidly, like a lot of stuff you're saying, I have no idea about it. When I hear it, makes me more fascinated. I want to get involved and hear the story.
One of my guys, Sterling McPherson, he was a big promoter. He's not as well known as a lot of guys, but people in the boxing world know who he is. But this guy in '93 he was already here. He brokered a deal with Kirk Okoria to bring Don King into the MGM. So Julio Cesar Chavez fight was the one that opened up the MGM when they opened in '93.
Oh yeah,
but they was lining up that deal for Tyson when he got out of jail. That's when he came here to fight in '96. That's my guy Sterling McPherson did all of those deals.
That's crazy.
But you wouldn't hear or know all these type of things that was going on behind the scenes and stuff like that. So
I absolutely love what you're doing. I mean, honestly, to piggyback on that, that's why we did Vegas Circles. We felt like, you know, the strip is what gets all the marketing dollars and everything, and we wanted the small business owners to get that light. And that's
people that are moving behind the scenes.
Oh yeah,
that's what it
is.
They don't get
there's so many people here that are just cool and they're so creative.
That's when I first saw this the podcast. I was watching Jay Sean's.
Jay Sean's great dude.
Watching that, and I was and it's so crazy because we had a lot of mutual friends, but I had just met him when my partner Jim, the half Entrobox, his son was getting married, so he had his bachelor party. So I called Jay Sean to get a table at Encore Beach Club. So he had set that whole thing.
Jay Sean, talk about the networking.
Yeah, that guy
for sure. No, for sure.
Jay Sean, our dog, man. We had him on twice, man. He's good dude,
man. He was dropping Jews, man. So I was like listening. I liked that. It was good. It was dope.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we're gonna keep winning together, man. We support what you're doing, man. We appreciate you coming on, man. What's some of your social handles people can reach out to you on?
Dream Ron John.
Okay.
That's on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
So yeah, just regular Dream Ron John, RONJOHN.
Yeah.
And so those two things you can catch me there. And
Entrobox.
Yeah,
Entrobox gonna take over.
Yeah,
Entrobox gonna take over the world, man.
No,
you
for
doing
sure.
it, man.
And make sure y'all go buy our Raycon headphones too. So I'm
Ray J
with Ray J.
Oh, that's what's up, man. I didn't know. You partnered with him?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
so we've been doing a lot of business stuff.
David McCovey's one of our guys, man.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay.
We'll talk after this, man. I didn't know that. So that's what's up, man. Will you check us out at thevegascircle.com. We appreciate your time, man.
Seriously. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate it.